What's going on, everyone? Nick Corona here, and today we're going to go over my first impressions of the new Mavic Air 2 drone. And this is coming from 72 hours, 333 flights of experience with the Mavic 2. So, just to let you guys know where I'm coming from. And basically from just my first flight, guys, I was able to pick out 6 key features that really stood out to me, or things that I really liked about the Mavic Air 2. And there were 4 things that I was able to pick out that I was a little bit less impressed with, and just kind of wanted to put out to you guys and see what you think, or maybe this is something that'll help you decide if this is the right drone for you. The very first thing that I noticed that I absolutely fell in love with was when I took the drone off, as in my very first takeoff, there wasn't just an intense amount of beeping even though the sensors were turned on. I know this sounds like a really small thing. You guys might have heard me talk about this multiple times, but I hate how when you take off with the Mavic 2, the motion sensors, or the proximity sensors, they immediately start beeping because they see everything around you. With the Mavic Air 2, you're able to just simply turn that volume down and just get the visual warning and the drone stopping, and it kind of puts a little red and yellow gradient on the screen. I really like this a lot. I like that a lot more. It just annoys me, and everyone starts looking and drawing attention right away when maybe you don't want to. So small improvement, but thank you very much for adding that. I don't mean to carry on too much about the little beeping. I know some of you are like, seriously? The second thing I want to commend the Mavic Air 2 on is the amazing footage. I mean, come on guys, you have some really cool modes with this. 60 frames per second in 4K, 240 frames per second in 1080. That alone is phenomenal. And when I took my first little clip and looked at it, I was honestly stunned. When you look at the stats, you expect it to be one way, but then when you actually see the footage and it's another way, wow. So just to put it in perspective, one huge upgrade and why the footage looks better on this drone, with the drone you guys see me using most of the time, the Mavic 2, that writes footage at 100 megabytes per second. The Mavic Air 2 writes footage at 120 megabytes per second. So they actually upgraded the write speed, and what this means is bigger files, more information. Like literally a 4K video from the Mavic Air 2 will be better than a 4K video from the Mavic Pro, the Mavic 2 in 4K, just based on the write speed. The file itself is going to be bigger. There's a lot of other things that come into play, like sensor size. I can tell you guys for sure that the megabytes per second make a huge difference. That's why this camera you're watching me on right now is 1080, but just looks phenomenal in 4K because it has a high write speed, and keep that in mind. The third thing that really stood out for me with this drone is obviously the flight time. If you're upgrading from the Mavic Air Original, it's uncomparable. You're doubling your flight time, and even compared to the other drones, the Pro drones, the Inspire, everything, it's really hanging in there. It's a very impressive flight time. So you're getting a power very similar to what's in the Mavic 2, which can go 45 miles an hour or 47 miles an hour, and then this drone can go 45, just a few miles an hour slower. And guys, you really don't spend tons of time flying around at top speed, especially if you're trying to get cool shots. So for all intensive purposes, it's just as fast. The fourth thing that super duper impressed me about the Mavic Air 2 is actually only with the Fly More combo, and it's the fact that they include ND filters, guys. Oh my goodness, I paid $100 for my 3 ND filters, and people getting the Mavic Air Fly More kit just get that included. That is alone a huge value. And another thing I'd like to point out is this camera is very impressive. It definitely, we'll get a little bit more into it, but my first flight, I didn't even put an ND filter on, and it handled it shockingly well. I mean, it's definitely better than if I try and do any of my other Mavics without an ND filter on a super sunny day. Anything white is just completely blown out. So very impressive. And thank you, DJI, so much for deciding to include your own ND filters. I'm sure Polar Pro and some other companies out there are not happy with you on that one, but as a consumer, greatly appreciate that. The fifth thing that I really loved about the Mavic Air 2 is the ADS-B. It was so cool to be flying and get a little alert and then see the airplane coming in on the map as I heard it and then see it in the sky. Like, you guys have no idea how much peace of mind that gives you, especially if you live anywhere near the edge of an airport where airplanes are frequently flying over and maybe you're in an area where they're starting to come down. It didn't tell me the height of airplanes or any super detailed information, but just even knowing where they are was pretty nice. So that's a feature we can look forward to on all drones and something you can enjoy right now with the Mavic Air 2. So the sixth and final thing that I found super impressive immediately with the Mavic Air 2 is the HDR video. This is a little bit more technical, but essentially in a nutshell what it's doing is using the amazing technology to simultaneously take an underexposed and an overexposed video at the same time, per se, and it essentially combines those. And what this equals is insane footage where you can get the brightest parts of the sky in the same shot as the darkest parts in the shadows. It's honestly a complete game changer, and I underestimated that feature until I looked into it more. At first I thought it was just a little color correction, it makes your footage look sharper, but once I realized what it's really doing and it's allowing you to get like bright exposure and dark exposure at the same time, that's gonna be a real game changer, especially for those shots where you're like maybe into the sun and then turning away. I can't wait to see what comes out of that. And even with all of those things being said, I want to say throughout this video, it really pumps me up and makes me want to know what is going to be in this Mavic Pro 3. It has got to be an insane drone. So, keep that in mind too. This drone's really cool. I don't think you'll regret buying it at all. It has a phenomenal camera in it. DJI technology has great longevity, great resale. So if you need this super amazing camera right now, by all means go for it, because it could be another 3-4 months until the Mavic Pro 3 comes out. We haven't even really heard specific rumors yet, and it's already been pushed back, and there's a lot of stuff going on right now. So and just keep that in mind. DJI products also have great resale. Okay, so now I just want to mention a few of the negative things that I noticed on my first impression with this drone, and some of these things might not be such a negative, but like I said, they're just things that I noticed. And the first one that I noticed is you can put the blades on wrong with this drone. And the only reason I say that is because I'm coming from the Mavic 2, where you can't put the blades on wrong. It uses the system of marking the blades and marking where they go so you can kind of tell, but you physically cannot lock the blades in the wrong spot. And when I first opened up this drone, I didn't really realize the big A and B on the bag, and that it literally meant it was two different blades, and started putting the blades on what I thought was the right way, and it turned out I put all four of the same blade on. So when the drone went to take off for its very maiden flight, it didn't go anywhere, and the screen alerted me that, hey, the blades are on wrong. And it just kind of shocked me, because as I was putting them on, I'm thinking in my mind like, oh yeah, I'm doing this right, because it wouldn't let me not, and it's a new drone, all new stuff. And then I realized there is a little mark on the blades, and there's a little mark down there, and you just got to pay a little bit more attention. It's a little less dummy and stupid proof. So, that's my mistake, but just letting you guys know so you don't make the same mistake. And it's one little cool thing that just made me wonder, like, why would they go backwards on that? Why would they have just a slick little thing they invented on the Mavic 2 that made it so this couldn't happen, and then they removed it for this drone? So I don't know, one little thing. The second thing that I noticed about the Mavic Air 2 on my initial flight that is probably one of the biggest negatives for a lot of you out there was the wind shake. When I just initially took off and was looking at myself through the camera, I could see the shake a lot more than I would like through what was being recorded. With my Mavic Air 2, with my Mavic 2, even when you see the drone moving a little bit, which it also moves, less than the Mavic Air 2, maybe because it's heavier, maybe it has a little more power, the gimbal would make up for everything else. With the Mavic Air 2, it wasn't even a windy day. There was just a little breeze, and I could really see that shake coming through. So that's something to think about. Like, if you're going to be flying in really windy conditions and you need a pro camera, you might have to wait till the Mavic Pro 3 comes out, and you might have to go for a DJI Inspire or a Matrice, because if you're, for example, I've been doing some exploring, and I can tell you guys, when you get to the top of a mountain, or as you start to go up in elevation, especially at the peak of something, it's always extremely windy, and it's going to be that windy whether you're taking off from there or not when you're getting cool shots. Point being, you might experience some camera shake and getting blown around just a little bit with the Mavic Air 2. I don't think it's going to blow away like people experience with the Mavic Mini, because it has almost as much power as the Mavic Pro 2. I just think it gets blown around a little bit more because it's lighter and smaller. So another thing to just consider, it's not make or break. It's not going to make all your footage look terrible. I'm just putting it out there for the pros. Also, I would like to mention, as you all know, there's ways around it. There's ways to fix slight shake on a super windy day, so keep that in mind too. The third thing that I noticed about this drone that I don't even know if this is bad, but it's just how I felt about it. The controller is huge. It's huge. Everything is getting smaller and easier to travel with, and then they made the controller big. And once again, like the propeller thing, it just felt like a little bit of a step backwards. I like not having to deal with the antennas. I like how the phone goes in. There's things that I like about it. I'm not hating on the controller itself, other than this is a smaller drone. It's like smaller than the Mavic 2, but you added this huge controller. So when it comes down to just portability and travel, I don't know. I would take it for a better connection, I guess. It'd just be one more thing to lug around. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of those things you'd have to think about. So the fourth and final bad thing that I felt about the Mavic Air 2 when I was flying it, and we've already kind of grazed over this, but it's just, what about the Mavic Pro 3? I just can't help but to think it's got to be phenomenal. It's got to have all these features and more, and maybe we'll even finally get a pro level zoom lens. So that's my thing. If I spend $1,000 on the Mavic Air 2 and then a few months later they drop the Mavic Pro 3 and it's like $2,000 or $2,500, and it's got essentially the same camera as the Mavic Air 2, but it can zoom in and maybe even has 6K or 8K regular footage, which frankly I think it will. I don't know. That's just another thing to think about. So, a little bit of a risky time buying the Mavic Air 2, but I will say it is a phenomenal drone, and you will be so impressed with the footage. I think right now, for this period of the next few months, I don't think anything's going to be messing with the Mavic Air 2 as far as straight up video quality out of a drone. The HDR technology is going to make that footage stand out. If you have that drone and you're shooting crazy lit situations, it's gonna be night and day. I'm not even gonna lie to you guys. On the same hand, I'm gonna stick to my guns and say, unless you need this drone, I would really consider that Mavic Mini for $400, $500 and just wait for the Mavic Pro 3. So I don't know. But like we talked about in this video, the drone's got great resale, so you won't be making a wrong decision either way. You've already decided to go with the DJI drone. Pull the trigger. If you're not already flying, you need it. That's my first impression of the Mavic Air 2. I hope that I was able to cover enough to give you a general idea of what you can expect out of the drone, and maybe even answered some questions that you had about it. So, in conclusion, It's a phenomenal drone, and just like any DJI drone, you can buy it. Rest assured, you're going to get your money's worth out of it. You can always resell it. It's going to be a phenomenal piece of equipment. I hope you found this review useful. I hope everyone took something out of this that maybe they didn't know about the drone before. I know how it is when you're hunting through all those videos just looking for that deciding factor. And, you know, I hope that this really helps you work through it. If you guys haven't already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified when I post new videos. And I have a really big announcement coming up. Something really cool I bought for the channel, and it's not a drone. I think I'm gonna announce it live though, so just, you know, like I said, go ahead and subscribe, you'll get the notification, and we'll go from there. Till next time, thank you for chilling with me. That was my first impression, the good, the bad, the ugly of the DJI Mavic Air 2 drone. Till next time, peace. Oh yeah, and just to cover the ugly real quick, the reason I called it that was just because look at the original Mavic Pro. This feels like a clone of it. I feel like they cloned the Mavic Pro more than they cloned the Mavic 2. And the thing that interests me about that is when they went from the Mavic Pro design to the Mavic 2 design, it gained 20% in aerodynamics. So did they just take the best from both worlds, or I don't know. I just honestly kind of wish they would have come up with a new design. Look how unique the Mavic Air looks compared to every other DJI drone. And then you have the Mavic series, and you just totally copied it with your Air series. And I don't know, I think it would have been cool to see a more unique design, but that's just my opinion. The look of the drone really is irrelevant, as you all know. But yeah, that's my 2 cents. So, till next time, peace.